folks? Practice is going well. I've had a couple of challenges. This weekend happened for me. One is I have a bad back, as people may know, and it's a one-way ticket. It just goes in one direction. It's doesn't improve, and now it's the point where it's really hard to walk very long without intense pain. Now I have to use this. I used to be able to sit in a half lotus position for hours, and now I have to use this kneeling bench, and someday I'll probably have to talk lying down to get off. So that these things like pain come up, and then the mind says, thinks, am I going to be able to finish the retreat? Can I even do retreats anymore? Fortunately, I've been practicing long enough to know that I just, that thought comes up, I just can ignore it. Don't pay attention to it. Last night, my mind was very awake. I wasn't thinking, I didn't have a lot of thoughts, but my mind was just awake. So I didn't sleep, and then the thought comes up, what if they asked me to talk tomorrow morning? which she said. I'm not going to be able to talk. I'm not sleeping. I won't be able to talk. Of course, I know to set that aside too. It's just Mara messing with me, This is, I'm sure things have similar, not the same, but challenges have come up for you all too. Something arises, and then the mind goes to town with it, and it's really interesting to pay attention to how that happens. One of my favorite scriptures, my favorite suttas, is the Buddha's instruction of Bahia, where there's an ascetic in another tradition comes to the Buddha, finds the Buddha, and says he wants the Buddha to tell him, teach him the Dhamma. And the Buddha says, not now, I'm going out for alms, now. Now's not the time for that. I have to go into the village for alms. And Bahia says, no, you got to tell me now, because maybe something will happen to you, or maybe something will happen to me, and I won't. I need to know the truth. I need to put an end to dukkha. And the Buddha says, no, not now, Bahia. And finally, after the third time, the Buddha relents and gives them the short instruction. He says, in the seen, let there only be the seen. In the heard, let there only be the heard. In the sense, let there only be the sense. And in the cognized, let there only be the cognized. When the seen is only the seen, the heard is only the heard, the sense is only the sense, and the cognized is only the cognized, you will not be in, of, or by that. Just that is the end of all stress and suffering. So, what he pointed out is that suffering comes about based on the stuff, what we add to what we encounter, as we go through our life, So, the pain is just pain. in and of itself, it's not suffering. It's suffering if I allow my mind to go, oh, I'm not going to be able to practice anymore, or whatever, I start catastrophizing about it. Sleeplessness or tiredness from not enough sleep is also not, it's in and of itself, it's nothing. Even tiredness is a supposition, right? It's why my mind is actually encountering is just a constellation of physical and mental sensation that we say, tired, I'm tired, Michael is tired, he won't be able to function. Then it goes beyond that. This is what it means when Michael's tired, he won't be able to function. And it's really just a sensation. This is when Luang Por talks about the stage of knowing Watu Paramat Smoothie Akar. So Watu Paramat means what the touchable object, what your mind is actually touching in the moment, which is simply a feeling in the body, a fatigue or whatever. And Samuti, the supposition is that we give it a name, call something, it becomes something, and then Kara is like all the reverberations in the mind about what that, every sort of chain reaction that happens in the mind. Oh my God, how can I possibly make it through the rest of the retreat? I'm so tired, I can't meditate. But if we cut it off at just the contact itself, like the Buddha urges us to do, then the problem is solved. And it's just, okay, there's just this moment of contact, and it's just a sensation or perception or an idea. He importantly included cognize, like the cognize, read the cognize in there, to acknowledge that thoughts and memories surface in the mind. And there's no problem with that. The problem is when you start building and building and building and building on it, which is what we tend to do. And I know, when I've been doing retreats for a long, long time, and it's always a challenge, because it's less so for me now, but it used to be, I'd look forward to the retreat, I was really looking forward to it, because practice is important to me, and then I'd arrange my life so I could do the retreat, and all that, and the retreat had this big importance, and I'd go on it, and it was so important that, you can't sleep or whatever, and then it's just, it's ruined, I can't sleep, so it's ruined. When I realized that I didn't have to do all that, if I didn't sleep, I didn't sleep, I slept very little last night, but I'm talking okay, I think, so it's just we learn to see how we create our own suffering constantly, and the path of practice is really simply that, letting the sense be the sense, the seen be the seen, the heard be the heard, the cognized be the cognized. And if we do that from moment to moment, then there is no more dukkha. The interesting thing about that sutta is the path and the destination are one, basically. The path is to just let things be what they are in the moment and know them, just simply know them as for what they are without adding to it. And the destination is, if you do that, you're there, because there's no you there anymore to suffer. So yeah, just because I just wanted to offer that as some words of encouragement, to not to to use the time we have left on this retreat. It a related thing came up. A practitioner recently was telling me that they were struggling with anatta, or not self. And that's actually come up a lot, like both in Wenham and here sometimes, where anatta is the truth of not self. And sometimes people who have a glimpse of or an experience of that get really kind of destabilized. And but they get destabilized because they're thinking about it, anatta, rather than just knowing it. Anatta's always been there, but it becomes destabilizing when they start thinking about it and adding to it. So going beyond, what the Buddha told Baha'is to do, right? Or some people don't even want to practice because the idea of anatta is kind of bothers them, so their own thoughts get in the way of it. So it's such a simple idea. The Buddhist path is very simple. He was able to reduce it to just these 6 or 7 sentences when he was pressed to just give me the heart of the teaching. And he gave him 6 or 7 sentences. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. And so that's my encouragement for the rest of the day. So you can just be, the sense is the sense, the scene is the scene, the heart is the heart, and the cognized is the cognized. And Tavivat asked me to say something about myself. I'm not really feeling that too much right now, but I will say, because somebody last night asked the question, as a layperson, what constitutes determined practice? This is what the question was, right? And unfortunately, that person had to leave early, so she's not here. But as a layperson, I think I maybe can give you my perspective on that. In that I've always been determined. Just kind of briefly, at an early age, I had a sort of a spontaneous experience, and I realized that the way we typically perceive ourselves in the world is an illusion, and that there's a truth that kind of flips everything on its head. That's there and is irrevocable. And so I had an early determination to kind of find it, because I saw that I was just living in illusion, and I wanted to not do that. And so I started out, then I just went on kind of exploring different spiritual traditions and everything, and then eventually gravitated towards Buddhism, and found the path. But I've always had this determination that I knew waking up was real, and I knew I had to do it, and I knew I could do it. And I didn't know how. And then I met when I met these teachers, I understood that this was the path, that this was true, that it was kind of no nonsense, like as Tavi was saying, this is beyond the scriptures, beyond words, beyond the scriptures, a direct path to awakening. So I kind of wholeheartedly took it up. Took up this Mahasati practice after doing Zen for a couple of years before that. And I was by that point, I had gotten married, I had a young daughter, my daughter was just born, right before I met these monks. And I had to support them. We had a house, I had to pay the mortgage. So the same stuff that everybody, I was locked into that condition, right, at that point. The culture is different here than in Thailand. In Thailand, it's acceptable if your family's safe and secure reasonably secure to go off and develop yourself and find the truth is acceptable. Here, not so much. I didn't see becoming a monk wasn't an option for me. And I had a very busy job. So I had, as many impediments to practice as anybody has. So the way the term, but in terms of back to the original question, what does determined practice look like for a lay person? I think for me, foremost, it's just that feeling of determination that I need to do this and I will do it. Of course, I had a job. It was an upper management job, required a lot of thinking, required a lot of travel, extremely busy, long days. I get caught up in trying to, deal with life, the facts of life, and would, forget it for a time, but not for a day. I'd forget it while I was tied up in something, but then because every day I made sure I sat, even if it's just for a few minutes, because that sitting, if it did nothing else, it kept that determination fresh for me. And as Ashanda said last night, whenever I could go to a retreat, I did. So I did retreats and got the extended practice. And even when I forgot it, during the day, I would there was some time where I recognized I had forgotten it, and I would come back and riding to lunch in the car, I would be aware. Traveling on the plane, I would practice. Not doing this on the plane, but you can do a smaller movement, right? And so, for me, that a determined practice is not letting go of that inner determination, and keeping it alive with a daily just doing this for a few minutes. If that's all you have, you're at least reminding yourself that, this is my mission, to awaken and realize my potential of this, realize the potential of this human birth, like I tried to share with you yesterday. And you never know when it's going to happen. It happened for me when I was, I told people this before, I think, that sitting on a floor of a dingy motel in Mississippi. I was on a business trip. I had some extra time. I had to drive from Memphis to this town in Mississippi, and so on the drive, I was kind of being aware and practicing. And I got there. I had like a half hour before my first meeting, so I just sat on the floor and just did it, and then it happened. So it's, when it's right, it opens, and you never know when that will be. It could be this afternoon. It could be, while you're eating lunch. It could be tomorrow morning when you wake up. So having that inner determination, and and also being open to the fact that the reality that in any moment the truth can show itself to us are the key points, I think, for determined lay practice. So anyway, I'm going to stop there. So let's have a conversation together for a bit before we go to lunch.
Yeah, thank you for that biographical sketch. That's very interesting. I always like hearing people about people's actual lives, actually happening, which is sort of the core, right, of what's going on. And then you have the theory, or the sayings, or sutras around that. A very specific question, I guess, about Mississippi, your experience there. You said you had a moment just before a meeting. I immediately wondered what that meeting was like. Not the details of what the meeting was, but how did you, in that moment, as a moment of awakening, how did you approach the world, especially in business context, I suppose? Yeah.
I didn't. It wasn't a problem, So when it happened in the room, I mean, if it happened, I don't think it would have happened in the meeting. It happened in the room. I was practicing, I was following the practice. I was aware, watching my body and my mind, watching the movement happening in the body and mind, and it just happened. And in that moment it's more than a moment, but in that time of that experience, you can't really do anything, but then your mind kind of comes back to normal, and then you just you're able to function. You remember it, but yeah, it's just we're all even when you see that Michael doesn't exist, you still pretend to be Michael. I mean, basically, right? So you just, Michael. Part of Michael was, had to take care of this business, so I just took care of it. It wasn't a problem. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not going to destroy you or anything, or make you unable to, I'm unable to be a spouse or to earn a living or to be a father. Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you so much for your insights, and just to add this as like a little path from A to B is Marsha Linehan came up with the concept. Well, I don't know, maybe she got it from somewhere, but she coined the term radical acceptance, and between that's sort of the secret to the Bahia, I think, that when we just radically accept everything, then the seeing can just be the seen, and the heard can just be the heard, and so on. And so she came up with a set of skills, actually, to practice that. So that's one of the things that I do, is I sit with my palms up and just accept. I don't know if it's taught anywhere else in Buddhism, like a way to, the path to acceptance. So I don't know, maybe you think I'm wrong, I don't know.
Well, mindfulness is acceptance, right? Mindfulness is knowing without aversion or greed. It's just directly knowing it, you know. And, yeah. So, and Tara Brach uses that teaching a lot about radical acceptance, you know, fully accepting things, being not just accepting, but being interested in it. You know, so our mind is meeting it in an alert way, you know, also not just a passive. Okay, I guess I got to accept this, but I think that's the meaning of radical. Probably just meeting it in engaged interest. You know, so we can see it and understand it, see and understand ourselves, see and understand how we create the suffering when we don't let the sense be the sense and the hurt be the hurt, seen be the seen.
First, thank you for sharing your story. I can relate since I have 18 months at home, and your story is very inspiring. I feel like this time, like thank you for also allowing us to be able to meditate for a sustained period of time. We didn't really have that for the past year and a half or more, given that I have a young child. What I feel is different this time when I meditate is that I can feel each movement more clearly and slowly. And when I catch myself thinking, I just kind of go back to the movement, and whatever I feel just kind of naturally dissipate. In the past, it didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way. I just felt like I had to catch myself thinking, and it was not really a body leading, like my body didn't really do much. And now I feel like it's just the sensation, the moving of the body that just lead me to just allow my feeling to just dissipate naturally, as opposed to just thinking, stop thinking. But it just like my body just made me just stop thinking. I don't know if I explain exactly.
Yeah, we don't try to stop it intentionally, and we just turn our attention from it, you know, back to the body, and then, like you said, it'll just stop by itself if we stop paying attention to it. You know, the body's really important, you know, to see that stage of Rupa Nama, to see in every moment there's just this body that's just a body, you know, just form, you know, and there's this mind telling you what to do, and when you see them kind of side by side, then the mind doesn't proliferate and drag us down the river of suffering.
I was wondering, so we really watch our body, and it helps us to watch the thoughts that are coming up. But I was reading your book, and you mentioned like a lot of other aspects in terms of reaching the end of the path, things like understanding impermanence and watching the sense doors to the mind, the different things come in. There's some different aspects you mentioned in your book. So how important is that I mean, could you still think you could reach the end of that path if you just concentrated on your movement and watching thoughts, or do you need to, understand and think about those other things, the input coming to the sense doors and impermanence and things like that. Kind of like the scriptures. If you're reading the scriptures, you're beginning ideas on the scriptures as well. How important is that?
So it's not important to think about it, but it's important to know it and to practice with it. So that experience I had in Mississippi happened quite a long time ago, and but because I kind of went out of order, I did go out of order, for some karmic reason, I don't know. And anyway, because of that, I would still, it wasn't stable, the equanimity wasn't stable until I went back and really solidified those other stages that Rinpoche talked about, really solidly understood the Rupa Nama and solidly developed the understanding of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and solidly understood Paramat. And it's only when I did that that thing also became like stable.
So if I understand what you're saying, then is you read those things, you understand them, but then you just let them go. And then somehow in your practice, you'll say, oh, I got it, you'll kind of register.
Yeah, well, at first, yeah, you're just reading it, so you know that exists. But we had a conversation with Tavi about this yesterday, because I'm helping. He's translated a talk that Lumpur Chen gave describing his background, and then Tavi asked me to help edit his English translation. So we were talking about it, and one of the things I asked him about is, Lumpur Chen refers to he said, he's talking about having his experiences as he's awakening, that, when he's at that retreat, and he discovered this, discovered this method of practice. And he describes, having these experiences and then the mind starting to think about it. And then he realized that, I should just come back to the object of practice. And by coming back to the object of practice, he meant coming back not just the hand moving and the mind thinking, but coming back to the knowing of Rupa Nama, or the know wherever you happen to be, or the knowing of anicca, dukkha, anatta, or the knowing of Paramat. So what that means is, when I first started practicing this method, and I read the translations of some of Lumpur Chen's teachings, he would, Lumpur say, first you know this, now heaven and hell, know this. And so I would go like, okay, I got that. but that's not the way. It's not intellectually, I know this, and this, or I've had a brief experience, I had that experience. But it's coming back and staying with the knowing of Rupa Nama until it's complete, or staying with the knowing of anicca, dukkha, anatta. So I think this came up at some point during the retreat, that to know anicca, dukkha, anatta is to see that in this moment that. And to know in this moment that the unbearable sort of nature of the body needing to move, it has to move, it can't be still, it's uncontrollable, and so it's unbearable in a certain way. And Nibbana used to say that a lot. It's of course it's bearable, but it's suffering, and everything is changing moment to moment, and to stay with that, the knowing of that, not to think about it, and not to check off the box. Okay, I got to see that, so let me go into the next thing. I need to see, but to stay with that, and so, yeah. So I think I'm going to either I'm going to try to rewrite that, or maybe write a different book, or something, but to make that more clear, that it's never about thinking about it. In fact, that is like the downfall. That was my downfall. I have a PhD. I'm great at thinking. And that's a hindrance. It's not about thinking about these things. It's about staying with the knowing of them until that knowing is complete. I guess that's the best way to say it. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you.
I'm thinking about an experience I had just like when I was walking over there the other night, or even during the day. As I'm walking, there's the light comes through the window, it's on the wall, and then I see my shadow, and I think, who is that? Is this real? Or is that an example of maybe perhaps touching upon some idea of non-self? Or what would be perhaps examples where it's in our practice that you might be experiencing a little bit of that? I felt like it was.
Yeah, in terms of the practice, because then you're liable to just go down that thinking highway, thinking about non-self. I had experienced non-self. Thinking about what it means and all that. So in this lineage, I think Luang Chen and his people carrying on his teaching have very skillfully encouraged translating anatta as uncontrollable, rather than not self, because not self brings up all these ideas, but to see that the thought in your head is uncontrollable. You don't decide. You don't choose what thought's going to come into your head. It just comes up. You don't decide not to sleep, or you don't decide that your back to hurt. You don't decide. Most things you don't decide. It's uncontrollable. So stay more with that awarenessing of that without thinking about it. You could start thinking about that and make yourself depressed because you're thinking about it. So just the bottom line is don't think about it too much. Just know it. And stay with that simple knowing of it. We should stop. We got to eat.
I think there's one question.
Oh, okay.
It's just kind of a comment. I was going to add to the shadow thing because how I kind of see it, I expect it almost so I take a little stroll in the garden when I start. The shadows bring out this Ice Age brain, primal fear sense, so it completely becomes a horror shock, and it has. So it's a little playful how I experience walking during nighttime in general. The moon's nice out, but when it's darker too, it's kind of like meditation. As long as you're safe, you're interesting, your brain went there real quick.
Yeah. Whatever happens, it's happening, and you just see it and know it. And again, that's what the Buddha told Baha'ya to do. Just see it, know it. Don't add to it. Just see it and know it. Including your own reactions too. That's why the cognized is in there.
I guess how to me it's the unseen, it's not real, the reflection of the light in the mirror out of the window. It's not real, but it's another layer just to always be a little aware of, because it seems like an apparition or an illusion. You can see how the mind can run away with that.
Oh, yeah.
That's fun.
All right, so we're almost done, right? We can now enjoy a delicious Thai lunch, and then we got a couple more hours. Thank you all. Bye.